This is my story. I graduated in the top 10 of my high school class. I was a football player, I ran track, and was selected as the best all-around student in my senior class. However, my life was a mess. I began to get involved with alcohol early on in high school, and by the time I was a senior had moved on to smoking pot. After graduation, I was offered a scholarship to Center College in Danville, Kentucky, where I also played football. It was at Center that I moved on from marijuana to experimenting with other drugs. And by the time I was halfway through my first semester in college, I was flunking all of my classes. I was discouraged and depressed. The more lousy I felt, the more I partied, and the more I partied, the deeper the hole I was digging for my life. In my heart, I knew that I was not living the way that I should, but I could not pull myself out of the downward spiral in which my life was heading. I wanted to stop being a party person, but I also wanted to be accepted by my peers, and I allowed them to be a negative influence on my life. One Sunday morning after a rousing night of partying, there was a knock on my dormitory door. I stumbled out of bed, got dressed, obviously hungover. When I opened the door, there was a young lady whom I had known in high school. Why was she coming to see me, I thought. And she simply said to me, "We need to talk. It's important." And I said, "Give me a few minutes and I will meet you in the lobby." So I got up, cleaned myself up, went to the lobby, and sat down with her. And this is what she had to say to me that day. She said, "I had an experience last night that you need to hear about. After I had this experience, I knew that the one person I needed to tell was you. You know that I've been involved in drugs and alcohol just like you. But last night something happened to me. I was attending a meeting of people who called themselves Christians, and for the first time I realized I was living a selfish life. It was all about me and what I wanted. But that I was being disobedient to what God wanted for me. I realized that I deserved to be punished because I was not living the way God intended, but I could do nothing about it. But then I heard at this meeting how Jesus Christ came and died on the cross as my substitute. And all I needed to do was accept this, and God would forgive me and help me get my life back in order. I could have a new start. Jesus could help me overcome my problems with alcohol and drugs. I knew that I could never change my life on my own, and I heard how God loved me enough to accept Jesus as the substitute for the punishment that I deserved. It was a gift from God, and all I had to do was tell God that I was willing to turn from my selfish living and turn to follow Jesus. I just had to believe in my heart that Jesus could rescue me from myself. And so last night I asked God to forgive me. I told God I was willing to turn away from my selfish living and self-destructive behavior and was willing to follow Jesus. And she said at that moment, I had a real joy in my life. I had a peace in my heart, and I knew that God had forgiven me for the way I had been living. I truly felt like a new person. I could not sleep last night because all I could think about was finding you and telling you about my experience because I knew your life was messed up as mine. I was stunned, but I could really see that she was serious. And for the next 2 weeks I could not sleep well. Her words kept coming back to me. I knew that I was living a life just like hers, messed up, confused, doing things that were wrong, living for my own desires, and I knew I could not change myself because I had tried and tried. I had a strong sense of guilt. I was ashamed. I knew that if God wanted to do so, He could punish me for the way that I had been living and in being disobedient to Him. But it was God's desire that I live a pure and holy life, and I had chosen to live otherwise. So I knew that God should and could punish me. The more I thought about this, the more uncomfortable I became, and the more ashamed I felt about the mess that I had made of my life. 2 weeks later, after football season had ended, I went home to Louisville, Kentucky. For some reason, I decided to get up on Sunday morning and attend a church service at the Baptist church where my father used to be the pastor. That morning I heard the same message that young lady shared with me in my dormitory. I heard how every person was disobedient to God, but that God loved everyone so much that he was willing to give his own Son Jesus Christ as the payment for our disobedience. Jesus' death on the cross was the payment for my rebellion and disobedience. In other words, Jesus took the punishment that I deserved, and that satisfied God. Furthermore, I heard that morning that this was a free gift, and that was how great God's love was. For the first time in my life, it all came together. I understood that Jesus had the ability to forgive me for my disobedience to God, and all I had to do was accept this gift of forgiveness in God through my faith in Jesus Christ, and the price he paid on the cross, I could have a new beginning. Furthermore, because Jesus arose from the dead, that meant that I, if I invited Jesus into my life, could now have the power to overcome my selfish ways, my rebellion, and my disobedience. Jesus conquered death. He conquered evil. He conquered my rebellion, my disobedience, through the resurrection. I can now start life all over again in a sense. So I decided on that day to turn away from my life of disobedience and turn to Jesus Christ in faith. And on that day and at that moment, I became a new person. What do I mean? The life I had been living, I no longer live. The life I now live is the life of faith in Jesus Christ, and God has sent His Spirit to dwell in my heart and my life. I now have a personal relationship with Jesus. It's more than just accepting the truth about Jesus. It is a relationship with the one who gave His life for me. I have been rescued from my life of self-destruction. I live each day knowing that Jesus Christ gives me the strength and the ability to overcome my self-destructive behavior. Now the things I know I should do, I'm able to do because of Jesus Christ. The things I know I should not do, I'm able to avoid because of Jesus Christ. I no longer live my life struggling to do what is right because Jesus shows me the right way to live. The way He shows me is through the Bible, which is God's blueprint for us. I have an inner joy and a genuine peace in my life each day because I know that I do not have to live my life in my own strength, because no matter how much I try, I will always fall short. God loves me so much that He overlooked my disobedience. All I had to do was to turn from my self-destructive behavior, my disobedience, and believe in my heart and confess with my mouth that Jesus was indeed the way, the truth, and the life. The only way to have my relationship with God restored was through believing in Jesus Christ.